Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and knock out a couple of videos real quick. I got a figure to unbox in a little bit, but first, as promised, I'm gonna have this video where I talk about Solomon Grundy. Now, I know some of you are out there being like, "What about the video where you said you'd go over the monitor?" I'm gonna get to it eventually. I just right now I'm feeling Solomon Grundy. That's the one that I want to go over. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I've got some stuff to discuss with Grundy. I think the Grundy video is going to be more interesting than the monitor video would be anyway. So we're gonna talk about Grundy first. And I do have some things to say about this figure, and I've got a couple others to compare him to, and a few Mcfarlane figures that I feel like would work well with this guy. So first of all, obviously this is an Arkham City figure, so you probably mostly want to have him with the Arkham characters, obviously. So where did I put that Batman? I had that Batman around here somewhere. Is he over here in this stack? No. Is he over here somewhere on the couch? I don't see him. Is he over on the other side of the room? He's over on the other side of the room, isn't he? I bet he is. Hang on a second. I don't see him over on the other side of the room. Oh! I left him over in front of that bat cave. All right. Forgot him when I was taking pictures for the thumbnail. By the way, yesterday I forgot to take a picture for that Infinite Frontier Joker thumbnail. I took one just now, so I'll be putting up a thumbnail for that. But oddly enough, that particular thumbnail, the one that YouTube picked automatically, was one where I'd gotten up from the couch for some reason. So it's just a picture of an empty couch. So yeah, he came with the Arkham City. He was the Build-A-Figure for that wave. So there he is next to Batman. All right, and then of course we have Catwoman, and we have Ra's al Ghul, and we have the Penguin, who are all from that wave. Now, Solomon Grundy is probably one of the first great Green Lantern villains. He's actually a villain of Green Lantern. Not the Silver Age Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, the one probably most of you know. Not John Stewart, who a lot of the younger folks would know. No, we're going all the way back to the Golden Age. He was the archenemy of this guy, Alan Scott. And other than maybe Per Degaton or Vandal Savage would be another one. Those are probably the three main villains you think of when you think of Golden Age DC Superman or superhero villains, outside of Superman and Batman. Even the Ultra Humanite, who'd be another one, started out as a Superman villain. People tend to forget that, but it just people tend to forget that Solomon Grundy was originally a villain of the Golden Age Green Lantern, Alan Scott. And Solomon Grundy was basically a guy who'd been murdered. He was a criminal who'd been murdered, and they dumped his body in the swamp. And through some kind of unknown mystical means, he managed to become resurrected as kind of a gigantic zombie. And since he was in the swamp, his body absorbed a lot of plant matter. And of course, Alan Scott's weakness is wood. So being that he had all that plant matter inside of him, Green Lantern's ring was useless. Oh, his leg popped up. I thought I had that pop in good. His leg was useless, or his ring was useless against Solomon Grundy. Couldn't do anything about him. Screw it. Oh, I forgot to unplug this for some reason. I unplugged my hairdryer when I had to charge my phone over here once, and I was doing a video, and I wanted to have more length to my cord, not have a hairdryer weighing it down. A plastic softener, Boom calls it. So we'll go ahead and do this real quick. Sorry about that. Anyway, Solomon Grundy was there weren't a whole lot of villains that really carried over into the Silver and Bronze Age of comics from the Golden Age like that. And I think really besides Vandal Savage was one that you saw a lot into the Silver and Bronze Age, and this one's doing the same thing. Just don't really want to pop in for whatever reason, so I'm gonna just soften the plastic a little bit, and then it should pop on all up easily and hopefully stay there this time. There we go. I heard it pop. Yep, they seem to be on there good now. All right, so but Solomon Grundy was one that like I think as far as you know, readers into the Silver Age and Bronze Age go, he was a little bit more impressive than, say, a guy like the Fiddler who played a fiddle, or the Gambler who gambled. I don't know. like those were basically just like old men in suits, and Solomon Grundy was a big freaking zombie. I mean, like Vandal Savage was still an old man in a suit, but at least he was like an old caveman in a suit. And he didn't look that old because he still had black hair. He wasn't immortal after all, but he was older than any of them. Anyway, Solomon Grundy was one that you saw a lot anytime that there was an Earth 2 story and somebody needed like a big monstrous character to be in it. Solomon Grundy was right there. So he was in a few of these. Like I remember seeing him in one of the Brave and the Bold team ups between Starman and Black Canary, where they had that little series where like almost like a mini series within the series. Before there was such a thing as a comic book miniseries. They used to have to cram them into anthologies whenever they wanted to do that. So he was too popular to just remain a villain of the Golden Age Green Lantern. He wound up becoming a villain of the entire Justice Society. And then he was popular enough that he was even able to cross over into Earth 1. And when he was in Earth 1, of course, who else would be his enemy but Superman? And, you know, I got this guy because he, like, probably the best representation of a Bronze Age Earth 1 Superman that we have so far, even if his belt is wrong. But yeah, he fought Superman a few times. And around that time in the animation, that was when he started to appear in the Legion of Doom on Super Friends. Oh, hey, look, there's the Riddler. We can go ahead and have him with his fellow Legion of Doom member, the Riddler. So I suspect that might have been part of why they brought Grundy into the Earth 1 universe as it is because, you know, they wanted to have him, you know, be in the Legion of Doom in the comic book. So, or in the cartoon, I'm sorry. So, and then they like mainly had to have him fight Superman in the comic book because, you know, Alan Scott, he had that weakness for wood. No jokes. We don't make fun of Alan Scott for being gay on this channel. We make fun of him for no longer being left-handed. So yeah, Green Lantern of Earth 1 probably could have made short work of Solomon Grundy. He didn't have that wood weakness. On the other hand, Superman did have a weakness for magic. And of course, Solomon Grundy was kind of a mystical character. So that put them on a little bit more of an even playing field. And if it weren't for Superman's weakness for magic, I'm pretty sure he could have just, you know, thrown Solomon Grundy into the sun or something. I don't know. But yeah, so he remained on Earth 1 for a while. He did eventually, I think, go back to Earth 2 because he fought Infinity Incorporated. So I think they were still on Earth 2 at that time. Eventually, you know, Crisis collapsed everything into one Earth, and Infinity Incorporated was in that. So yeah, and then once everything was collapsed into one Earth, and of course, Solomon Grundy being a character like Alan Scott was originally from Gotham City, that meant Solomon Grundy was in Gotham City, so that meant he ran into this guy a lot. So then Solomon Grundy somehow became a Batman villain because Gotham City, and that's how he wound up in this video game. So that's a brief history of Solomon Grundy for you. I got a couple other figures I want to compare him to. One is this one, which is one that Mattel made that was from the early days of the DC Universe Classics. This was one of the first Build-A-Figures they did. It wasn't the first. I believe the first was Metamorpho, but he was in one of the earliest waves that they did. And I know that he's one that's kind of hard for people to complete nowadays, but I made sure I got him because I knew I was going to want a Legion of Doom. Now, funny thing about this is, and I haven't played the video game, so I'm not sure how well this character scales with the other characters in the video game. But for me, that's a good scale of Solomon Grundy versus Batman. Like, Batman's about 6'2". That means Solomon Grundy is probably about 7 feet tall. That's big enough for Solomon Grundy, I think. But this guy is immense. I mean, look at that. He's taller in proportion to the Mcfarlane Solomon Grundy than the Mcfarlane Batman. He's gigantic. So did I have? I was thinking I might have had some kind of DC Universe Classics figure around here somewhere that I could compare him to for size. I thought that I'd had one around. But it's all McFarlane stuff around here. Don't tell me I'm going to have to get up a second time. Surely I had something. Well, you know what? We're just going to... I had that Wonder Woman, but that's not going to work. We need, like, just kind of a standard superhero-sized character that I can compare. I could have sworn I had one around here somewhere, but I'm not seeing it now. Okay, well, we'll use something that's like vaguely the same size so you guys can at least figure it out. So, not exactly the same size, but close enough. I happen to have nearby. It's always good to have Batman action figures nearby. So you can see, like DC Universe Classics were like a little bit larger than this, but you can see the height difference between a 6-inch figure and this Solomon Grundy. I mean, Solomon Grundy way too big is what I'm saying. But you know, it's one of those things where honestly, his size kind of tended to vary in the comics. Sometimes he could be like as big as King Kong. So you know, it's probably okay that he's a little bit bigger. But honestly, I feel like this one scales better for DC Universe Classics than this one does. And this is for a larger size of figure. But you can see this is a more comic book accurate design of Solomon Grundy. This one's more based on the video game, so it's going to be a little bit different. But there we go. And I got one more Solomon Grundy figure for us to look at. And here is the one from Spin Masters Batman line. Like I said, he's a Batman villain now for some reason. But you can see a lot of the design choices carry over from the Arkham City games. I had speculated when I first got this figure that, like, I kind of suspected maybe he took some inspirations from some video games somewhere along the lines. Like, and I wasn't sure which one because I don't play a lot of video games. But I was right. He was based on this Arkham City version. And you can see a lot of the sleeves are torn off and he's barefoot, as opposed to, like, you know, the old one where he had, like, his sleeves were kind of raggedy but still attached to the jacket and he had boots. So yeah, I took some inspiration from that version, this version. So let's talk about this figure for a little bit. Let's look at the articulation. He can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. Not the best range of motion for either of those, especially looking down, which is unfortunate because you probably have to look down a lot of people because he's so freaking tall. His head rotates allegedly all the way around, but it's gonna actually like bump into the jacket, and that popped his neck joint out. Popped it out at the neck, which is weird because I'm pretty sure it pops on at the head. So but whatever. Don't try to turn his head all the way around; it'll pop it off. But in theory, it would turn all the way around if not for this jacket, I think. So he does not have as much articulation as a figure normally has. His arms do rotate all the way around, and now I popped his arm off because it bumped into this jacket. This jacket just wants to pop all the pieces off. So now we got to pop it back on, and that was not an easy part to pop on in the first place. So I suggest not rotating his arms all the way around unless you want to pop his arms off. He does have a single joint at the elbow, no double joints, but as bulky as these arms are, a double joint wouldn't have done him any good, I don't think. Anyway, it does rotate at the elbow, so you do have that. He's got a wrist that rotates all the way around and has a hinge on it that moves from side to side. He does not have Mcfarlane ball jointed wrists, but again, these wrists are so bulky, they probably would have looked kind of awkward anyway. He has a single joint of articulation at the waist. You can get some good range of motion out of that. Does not have the articulation under the rib cage like most Mcfarlane figures do. He can kick up about that far, but he's a zombie. He's going to be stiff. So there we go. That's about as far up as he can kick. Single joint of articulation at the elbow. Again, he's not the most nimble fellow. And then he's got a joint at the ankle that goes down about that far and goes up really stiff. Really stiff. It ratchets. It goes up about that far. And he has toe articulation just to show off, even though he's got limited articulation elsewhere. They got to make sure they get that toe articulation in there. So a lot of good details to this character. A lot of weird textures to the skin that kind of indicate that he's of rotting flesh. He's got all kinds of sutures and stitches holding him together, like Frankenstein. We'll get to Frankenstein later. He's over there. We're gonna talk about Frankenstein next week. He's got these chains wrapped around his wrists, and you can see that they're painted in such a way where they look all rusty and everything. I like those chains. That's a nice touch. He's got this rope belt holding everything together, holding his pants up. That's thank you for that. Lots of good detail on the ends of the toes, like dirt from the swamp. Pretty cool. Chipped toenails. Look about as bad as my toenails, honestly. Lots of cool texture to the suit. Lots of fabric texture. He's got this little strap in the back and almost like tails on his jacket, like he's a character from like the 1800s or something, which in some versions of the story he is. It depends. So yeah, this is a must-have villain, I think, as far as your DC multiverse goes. Not just for Batman characters, but like I said, he's got a lot of history all throughout the DC universe. And if you're like me and you're a sucker for these Golden Age characters, you want to make sure you have Solomon Grundy so he can fight your Justice Society and fight Alan Scott in particular. Because like I said, he's the main villain of Alan Scott. Unless you count Vandal Savage. And Vandal Savage just seemed to fight all of these guys. And Solomon Grundy seemed to fight all of these guys, but he was definitely designed to be a villain of Alan Scott. So really cool figure. I'm glad I was able to get a hold of him. I would suggest anybody who wants to go ahead and build this guy, go ahead and get on buying those figures because they're not going to get any cheaper, I don't think. You can get Batman and Penguin for a retail price on Big Bad Toy Store currently, I think, and Ra's al Ghul for a little cheaper. You might have to spend a little bit more on Catwoman in some places. Honestly, this is probably the best Catwoman that Mcfarlane did, wherever I put her. And it's definitely my favorite version of her costume. It's the Darwin Cook designed Catwoman is my favorite design for her. And it's one of those things where like I kind of feel like even if you're just collecting comic book versions of the characters, that one still works really well. Like this is obviously the Arkham version of Solomon Grundy, but I think he's probably close enough. Most people wouldn't mind having him with their comic book figures, but this one would just fit in like directly with the comic book figures. If they made a comic book accurate version. She wouldn't look too different from this at all. So that's pretty much it for Solomon Grundy. So I'm going to end this video now. I'm going to start up another one. If you guys are interested in watching that, we're going to open up Captain Atom. So I'll be doing that in a few minutes. So hi, Sean Franklin. I'm going to open Captain Atom in a few minutes. This video is about to be over, but if you want to pop back in for the Captain Atom video, you are more than welcome. It's your birthday? Oh man, happy birthday. Well, I'll make sure to mention that in the Captain Atom video I'm about to do. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Tune back in a couple of minutes. We're going to do Captain Atom. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. All fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Solomon Grundy, both the figure and the character in general. We will talk to you next time. Bye.